Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Omby here. I teach theater at Lucille Brown Middle School. This is my second year there. I want to say to everybody, I hope you're staying safe. I hope that you are in a good place during this difficult time. My thoughts are definitely with you. To my students at Lucille Brown, I love and miss you all very much, terribly, every day. Um, and I wanted to say to my drama club, specifically, don't think that all the work we did this year was for nothing, because it wasn't. We worked so hard all year on Romeo and Juliet and our improv show, and all of that. And you guys all came such a long way from the beginning of September to now. For those of you that are not coming back for whatever reason, whether you're in eighth grade or going to a different school, I'll miss you, and I was glad I got to be your teacher. For those of you that I'll see next year, I'll see you next year, and I'm excited about that. So again, a little bit about me, so you know kind of where I'm coming from. I have been a theater teacher for 5 or 6 years now. I went to Longwood University and studied theater education. So this is what I love to do, and every day I get to do it and live in my dream. So life is pretty good. So today, what we're going to talk about is a little bit different than just normal talking about the theater. I want to talk about something a little bit different today. So we all know in acting, right? In theater, we have our actors. Who else do we have in the world of theater, whether it be a play or a movie or a TV show or an opera? Who else do we have? Well, we know we have the director, right? The director's the one kind of calling the shots behind the scenes. It really kind of helps create the overall vision for what the show is going to be. The buck kind of stops with them in a lot of ways. With Romeo and Juliet at our drama club, my role was the director, right? So now that being said, there are a lot of other pieces to the big theater machine that kind of make it all go together and make it all work. It's not all just the work of one person. It's truly a collaboration. It's truly coming together and having a bunch of people wearing a bunch of different hats and coming together and really helping each other create the best product possible for the audience that they have in mind. So that means you have people who are in charge of designing the set. What's the set going to look like? You have people in charge of designing the lights and the sound that you're going to hear and see on stage. And the one that we're going to talk about today, the one that I think is really important and near and dear to my heart, is costumes. Specifically, we're going to talk about the role of the costume designer. Now, for me, costumes are awesome. I love costumes. Uh, for me, the costumes of if I really go and think and look back on it, the costumes from my childhood and those TV shows were really what drew me in as a kid. And if you really think about it, it probably is similar for you too. Uh, I remember all my kids know I'm a gigantic nerd and love uh, all things superhero related, and we'll talk to you about superheroes until I'm blue in the face. And so my favorite growing up is Batman, and what really drew me in was the costume, the cape, the cowl, the darkness all around him. That really is what made that character come to life, and that was what I loved about Batman. The Power Rangers, as a kid, same thing. I loved, a lot of kids love the swords. I loved the costumes. I loved, like, when they would, say it's morphin time or whatever, and morph into those costumes. It really kind of caught my imagination. And it was kind of similar, for Superman as well. I loved the idea that Clark Kent, this reporter, could just go into a phone booth and change his clothes and become Superman. And I just thought that that was so cool that you just put on this costume and become this completely different person. And I think that that's really important to know for theater is the costume design process is really, really, really important to helping the audience feel what you want them to feel and telling the story that you want to tell. So let's say you're a costume designer. Let's say I'm a costume designer. Here's some things we got to think about. Okay, we need to think about where we are, right? If we're doing a play or a movie that takes place in the Wild West, wouldn't really make sense for you know, somebody from uh space in a spacesuit and a space helmet to be out there, right? You would want, somebody in a cowboy hat. Uh Makes sense, right? You have to think about what time period you are as well. If you're 500 years ago, if you're, doing a play that takes place 500, 1,000 years ago, I'm not going to see people in jeans, t-shirts, and Crocs, right? If you do, I have a lot of questions. So that's two things you need to take into account, and then the another thing you need to take into account is the overall mood of what you're doing, right? Um, there's a director, a famous director. His name is Tim Burton. And all of his movies and his films all kind of have a same aesthetic or feeling to them. And that's done through the set, that's done through the way the cinematography looks and the characters act and everything. But it's also done through the costumes, right? If you want to play where you want your audience to see your landscape, they see what's going on around you, and they see somebody walk in and they're covered in water, and they're covered in they're wearing really like tattered clothes and stuff. You're gonna be like, well, something's going on with this person, and then boom, they've got you hooked like that. That's kind of the job of the costumer, right? um if you want to have a happy mood, you're probably going to have brighter colors. Makes sense, right? And it also needs to make sense for your character. That's the last thing you really need to think about, okay? Is does what you are doing as a costume designer and what the character is wearing make sense for your character? And if it does, then awesome. So like for example, let's look at some characters and see if these things make sense for them. Captain America from the Avengers movies, right? Um, he wears, you look at his costume, the suit. You can tell, okay, he's wearing kind of like a suit, so he's pretty heroic, right? You can tell, from the Stars and Stripes, he's relatively patriotic, and what that means to him as an individual he goes into. You can also tell that he's probably someone you don't want to mess with, because he's got like a full suit of armor. So you can tell all of that, and his colors are relatively bright, so you can tell that he's probably a beacon of goodness as opposed to not so much. That's not always true, but it's kind of a good indicator. Uh, Another good one is Tony Stark, Iron Man. He's in an Iron Man. Well, what's Tony Stark first? He's in a suit, right? A three-piece suit, a super nice suit, super nice hair all the time. Looks super awesome, super nice. So you can tell, oh, that dude probably makes some money. You can also kind of tell by like the sunglasses and stuff he wears. Oh, he wears sunglasses inside. He's probably cocky. So you have a lot of those. No disrespect to anybody who wears sunglasses indoors, uh, but he exudes that confidence, and that costume kind of shows you, oh, he's probably pretty rich. And then the Iron Man suit, you look at that and you go, oh, he could do some damage. He could really. He's probably pretty powerful, right? So you can tell all that just from the costume, and also the costume is just super cool. It really kind of brings this character to life and out of the comics. And another one is Elsa, right? You think about Elsa, you think about her powers. She can freeze things. She's got the ice powers and everything. And I think that the cool thing about her is, which she's constantly wearing a long flowy dress, which is bluish. It's blue, and blue makes you think of cold, right? And it's a longer dress, which makes you think, it puts her in the time period that she sat in Arendelle, and also it would make sense. She's a queen; she would wear nice clothes. And also, again, the blue really brings up the fact. Oh, by the way, we're in a cold place, guys. In case you didn't know, we're in a place that's super cold. So uh, that's kind of the things you need to think about when you think about set design, okay? You need to really think about those four things. So we'll go over them real quickly again. A, what's the overall mood you're going for? What is the mood that you are going for? in your play or your movie or your TV show? Is it happy? Is it sad? Is it angry? What are you going for? It's really your job as a person in theater is to help tell the story. And costumes definitely help do that. And one way they do that is to help create the mood. Also, it doesn't make sense for your character to wear it. Also, kind of helps to tell that story. Uh, and then where does it take place? When does it take place? And you need all of that to fit. And sometimes that's up for debate. Sometimes you can talk with your director, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in a second, and a little bit about that process. You can talk with the director a little bit and know that sometimes you can have some wiggle room and kind of figure out, okay, how do we want to do this? And that's the next thing we're going to talk about is the role of the costume designer specifically. As a costume designer, your job is to basically sit down with the director. Okay, let's do a little bit of role play. Um, I am the director. You're my costume designer. Okay, I'm directing Romeo and Juliet. Okay, and Romeo and Juliet, boy meets girl. Their families don't like each other. They have to fight. Blah blah blah. I actually picked that play for my kids this year because you can set it in any time period and it pretty much works. So I um was so say I'm sitting down, right? I'm the director. You come up to me and you say, "Hey, Mr. Ombie, I'm your costume designer." And I'm gonna say, "Hi, costume designer. I'm Mr. Ombie. I'm the director." Chances are I probably already know you. We would sit down and you would ask me, "What is your vision for this show?" Because the director ultimately is the one who has a vision. I could throw you a curveball. Directors have been known to do that. I always say to my kids, there are three certainties in life: death, taxes, and Mr. Obi changing his mind. So one of the things that you do is you ask, what is the vision of the show? And I would say, well, for Romeo and Juliet, I want it set in space. And you might look at me and go, okay. Or I might say, I want it set in the future. And you might go, oh, okay then. So then you're going to get to work now designing the costumes for the show. So what you would need to do is you would need to read the play or read the script of whatever it is we're doing, or watch it if it's something you could watch. Make sure you're really familiar with the story that they're trying to tell, the characters, the mood, all of that. So then when you get time, then what you would do is you would sketch out what designs you're into. Well, that process is probably different for everybody, but you could sketch out, okay, Romeo, if he's in the future, is gonna look like a robot. He's gonna have all of these different like flashy things on him. And then you would basically design these characters, come up with the ideas for what you would want them to look like. Once you've taken all that into consideration, you would have people working with you. If you're the designer, you're going to have a costume crew of people who are helping you buy supplies for these costumes and physically sew and make these costumes or paint stuff if you need to paint stuff. You would get these costumes and then you would have production meetings with the director, right? And then you basically would decide together. And again, we talked at the beginning about collaboration, that word of really working together and coming together, which is why I love theater. There's so many different things to do, and then the collaborative part of it, really it's such a good lesson for life that you're going to be so much more successful if you can work with other people, and you're going to be so much more successful if you can really connect with other people in a professional and personal way. So this is kind of one way that happens. And then the costumes get made, and then they wear the costumes, and yeah, you have an awesome show and wonderful. So now what we're going to do really quickly before I leave you today, thank you for watching my video, but before we do that, we're going to design a show together, okay? You and I together, we're going to be the costume designers. We have just been given, hello? Hello? Hello, Mr. Director Man. Yeah, it's Mr. MB. I got the designers here. Uh-huh. 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 Okay, yeah, we can totally do that. Um, you'll pay me $10 million? Hello? Hello? hung up. So that was a director, and our director just wanted to let us know that we are going to be costume designing their version of Snow White. But they want their their Snow White set in modern times. So Snow White's going to be set in modern times. So how are we going to do that? Let's think for a second, okay? First, let's think about the story of Snow White. Basic story: Snow White is a girl. She's a teenage girl. I guess, yeah, about that age. She's very happy, and everybody loves her. And the queen gets jealous and says, you know, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? And they're all like, hey, it's Snow White. And she gets jealous and hires a hunter to kill her. It doesn't really work out. So she has her eat a poison apple. She hangs out with some dwarves, and then eventually some prince saves her. Yay, Disney. So basically, what we would do, we know our basic story, right? We know now the next part was, where does it take place? He said he wants it in a public, in a modern environment, so we know, like a modern urban or suburban environment. So like, you know, we'll say Richmond or Chesterfield. Okay, cool. We know it takes place now because he said modern. Now we look at each character and we've got to costume those characters. So let's look at first Snow White, okay? So again, our goal is to tell that story. Snow White is happy-go-lucky. And also, we want our audience to know that it's Snow White and not just some random story in modern times. So we could actually pay homage to the original costumes. So what I think we should do for Snow White is we should put her in jeans and a blue T-shirt, and have red stripes on the sides of the blue shirt because she wears the blue and red dress. So she'll have the red stripes on the T-shirt and a blue T-shirt, and then she'll have a red headband. Again, bright blue, because bright colors means yay, happy, and that's what we want our audience to think about. We really want them to feel for Snow White and identify with her. So we want her to be as likable as possible. So light blue, we cool with that? Cool. The next one we're gonna do, let's see. Let's look at the dwarves. So the dwarves are a little bit weird. We're not actually gonna have them be dwarves. Why don't we have them be dressed like representing the dwarves? For example, Doc could actually be dressed like a doctor, like a modern day doctor in like a lab coat. That would be easy. Done. You'll get that and go, Doctor. Oh, it's Doc. I get it. Sleepy. You know, you could have wearing pajamas. It's that simple. He's wearing pajamas, therefore he's sleepy. Oh, I get it. He's sleepy. Bashful could be in lots of red, red and pink, because you know his face gets red because it becomes bashful. It becomes embarrassed. Sneezy, um, you know, could constantly be, you know, walking around with tissues and like a handkerchief and stuff, or even a mask. Like that's topical, right? That would be really cool. So you could do all of the, like every single dwarf, you could do something different with them, right? Like you could do something with them to kind of bring to kind of modernize the character a little bit, but still stay true to the character. Um, the queen. I was thinking about this. I was actually talking with my roommate and friend about this before we did this video, and I was thinking about the queen, and I was like, we could just put her in black because she's the bad guy, or we could go even deeper to telling the story, right? And get deeper into her character. So she is a very jealous person, right? She's incredibly jealous of Snow White. So, and maybe she's jealous because she sees herself in Snow White and sees more of a better version of who she wants to be in Snow White. So instead of being in bright blue, she's gonna be in dark blue. And instead of having the red stripes on her shoulder, she is going to have black stripes on her shoulder. So uh, bright blue and red for Snow White, dark blue and black for the Queen. So they kind of become a mirror of each other. And then that way, we're telling that story, right? So again, of that jealousy. The huntsman, like a random woodsman from like the 1800s wouldn't really make sense for a modern show. So if it's a huntsman, why don't we put them in camouflage? That's what a hunter in this day and age would wear. So put them in camo, easy breezy, beautiful, done. And then the last major character, the prince, right? That's easy. You put him in jeans and you put him in purple. Why do you put him in purple, you ask? Because purple is the color of royalty. Boom, he's a prince, he's wearing purple. Easy, right? So we've designed our show. Then now it would come up to, the designer and the crew and whoever else to make this happen. But that could be like your basic premise for a show, right? If you're trying to really you're trying to help the director fulfill their vision and help the show succeed. It's not about you. It's not about ego for anybody in theater. It's all about making the show succeed, and you have to work together to make that happen. So this is where I leave you for now. I'll be back. My assignment for you is this. I want you to basically do what we just did. You're just going to write down, you're going to design a show. You're going to think of your favorite movie, TV show, play, whatever it is, YouTube video, I don't care. And you are going to design the characters in that show. You're going to take the major characters and you're going to write down how you would want to costume it. Now, you don't just have to do the exact costumes that they wear in their show. It's your version of it. You're the designer. You can do whatever you want. If you want, you're also the director, by the way. So again, you can do whatever you want. So if you want to set your show, say you want to do the Avengers, but you want to set it in medieval times. Okay, what would a medieval Iron Man look like? What would a medieval Captain America look like? Like, would they look like knights instead of like, modern day? Um, Say you want to do Frozen, but you want to set it in the Wild West. What would that look like? What would a cowboy or a cowgirl Elsa and Anna look like? Have fun with it. Be creative. Think outside the box. Try to do at least 3 or 4 characters for your show. Write down what they're going to be wearing, and write down why you made that choice. Um, Remember the things to think about. What is your character? Like, what is the character? What makes sense for your character? Where is your show? When is your show? And what is the overall mood you're going for? So there'll be a couple of other videos uploaded, I believe, to kind of help also really show what a costume designer does. And this video is going to really kind of help. Sorry, not this video. This project should hopefully help get you to doing something creative. Um, Pleasure to see you guys. Thank you all for watching this video. I deeply appreciate it, and I deeply appreciate you. I hope that you are staying safe.